Amen.
Without further ado, Paul Borlin.
All right. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for coming. It's a good turnout. Good to see multi-generation. We heard from Krister and Don these last couple of months, both elders in the church. I'm also an elder in the church, just not the same way. I'm just older than some of you. So respect your elders. So review what what they talked about. Krister talked about messed up world that we live in, abdicating our responsibilities, and man up by God's prescription. And Don talked about personal quiet time, finances, and purity of thought. So if you missed those, they're really good talks. They're online on our YouTube channel. Let's go check that out. So I have a few questions for you first. There's some things on the table. There's some note cards on there and some pencils, and I want you to answer these questions. Nobody will see the answers to these. Are for your personal reflection. And towards the end of the talk, you'll have a little better picture why we're asking those questions. So the first question you want to ask yourself: what is the first thing you do in your day? And I'm not, hit your snooze in your alarm or brush your teeth or whatever. I mean, what is the first kind of intentional thing you do every day? Secondly, what is the last thing you typically do in your day? And these questions are on the pieces of paper in the middle as we do group discussions and individual questions if you aren't able to get to them quick enough. And lastly, when you have that moment alone, the kids and the wife or whoever leave, or you have that day to yourself, what's your first thoughts or actions? What typically do you jump to? All right, great. So let's talk about, this is not playing. That's all right. So this is a movie, a snippet from the movie of Castaway, and Tom Hanks acts in that. Am I supposed to click to? There, it's animating. Anyways, he's adrift on this raft that he made. He had Wilson, the volleyball, with him, and he wakes up. Wilson's gone, so he's kind of adrift in the ocean. His dire situation, but he's more concerned about this volleyball. So, stop. Thank you. It's all right. That's good. So then we have on the other side. I wish it was animated, but nice. You have this sailboat team that it's in a race, and you got a whole crew there. They're very practiced and hardened on the ocean. They're using all the tools that they have, their sails, their rudder, and everything, and they're like driven. So in the contrast of being adrift and concerned about things that maybe aren't important amongst other concerns, or being completely intentional and driven. So I ask, which are you in the various parts of your life? This could be some things are very intentional, very driven, very focused. Other things you are just kind of adrift, concerned with things maybe you shouldn't be. So are you a leaf in the wind in your life and in various aspects of your life? What are your actions when you're home alone? Are you like him, just kind of running amok, or do you have intentional? And I heard from somewhere that somebody said, you are the man that you are when you're alone by yourself. And I think there's some truth in that. When nobody's around to judge you or keep you accountable, you kind of drift off to kind of yourself sometimes. So let's talk about intentionality versus accidentally. So when warriors go to battle, they have a plan. They have an action plan. It's a bigger plan, like you're going to take this front, or as small as taking a room. They go by numbers. They have a plan. Nobody's like, throw equipment on, like, yeah, let's go into this room. All right, hey, bad guys. Oh, okay, let me get this out. How do I use this thing again? It's it's intentional. They've trained, they've practiced, they have a plan for what they're doing. Analogous, a lot of times we don't have a plan with that intention on your lives. So we just kind of like drift through life, and we're in the battle of all the aspects that come in our life, and we're just kind of like, yeah, what's up? Wait, how do I use this thing? So let's talk about intention. This is the definition from Merriam-Webster, a determination to act in a certain way, or to have a mind as a purpose or a goal. So you have a purpose or goal that you're striving for to have that intentionality. So we all have our personal interests, maybe planning that vacation, our sports or hobbies that we do. Sometimes we can be very intentional about this. I was a soccer player growing up. I have my soccer games on Sunday. During the week, I'm like, okay, I'm going to run, I'm going to train. I'm processing, like, okay, I can do this differently. And, what team is coming up? What are the stats on that team? So we have all these things that I'm intentional about. But maybe I was off focused on that too much and I left my family and kids behind. And, maybe I should have been spending time with them or doing something else that was more intentional. Not saying these things are bad, but, and I'll bring that up more. So let's talk about some Bible examples. We have Saul to Paul, and God gifted Paul with some certain attributes. So when we see him as Saul, he uses attributes in one way, and when he's Paul, he uses attributes in another way. So in Acts 7 is the first time we see Saul, and the verse goes that, at this they covered their ears, yelling at the top of their voices. They rushed at Stephen, dragged him out of the city, and began to stone him. Meanwhile, the witnesses laid their coats at the feet of a young man named Saul. So in a biblical survey, I was reading about the context of this. So why did they point out he was a young man? That was a point of intention to point that out. So we know that he was the son of a Pharisee. He was probably pretty well educated in the city that he lived in, Rome. He was a Roman citizen. He also, we know he was some kind of authority. It's mentioned he's among the authorities that was going door to door, ripping Christians out of their houses, killing them, persecuting them. So with Paul being a young man, was he being foolish with some of the decisions and intentions that he was using? Was he trying to impress his dad, the Pharisee, trying to achieve a status? We don't know a whole lot about what Paul, but there was intention that he's a young man. And so he was using these attributes that God gave him, some leadership, maybe some intelligence, maybe some valor. You have this picture here. This is a temple guard. I think it's from the Chosen movie. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. But there's a picture of a warrior, a picture of somebody who's, if you think about somebody going door to door, ripping people out of their homes and killing them, that's pretty intense. So this might be a picture that we might see of Paul sometimes, kind of thoughtful and kind and gentle. Not that he wasn't, but I think it leads us into thinking that he was wholly docile. So let me read a verse that Paul talks about. It says, 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent the night and a day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from the Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst. I have gone without food. I have been in cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressures of my concern for all the churches. So thinking through all that, I know in my own life, I get to go through work and I'm like, oh, it's so hard. These people are just mean to me. So these things. And I think sometimes we think of, Paul speaks of love and kindness, which is all great stuff, but I think sometimes don't put that warrior mindset on him. To bear through some of this stuff, man, you got to be tough. And to keep going through his entire life, he was very driven and very intentional with what he did. Oops. So what does your valor compare look like to Paul's? This might be a picture of me on the couch after a long, hard day at work, ignoring my kids, ignoring my wife. And Paul's journey was all over Southern Europe, Eastern Asia, and he was very intentional about that journey. A couple of paraphrases, he said he will come to them later and stay longer. That's intentional. And then but he was called elsewhere, if the Lord permits. So very intentional, instead of like, hey guys, I want to hang out with you again. I'm coming. Yes, we're just going to have a party. Very intentional what his ministry was. Also, he said he wanted to visit Rome on the way to Spain. He had that intention to go to Spain. Beyond, he could keep with all his friends in Southern Europe, but he had intention to keep going out of his comfort. But he said, I'm going to Jerusalem first. So it's very much intentional what he was doing. Let's talk about Jesus. In Luke chapter 4, this is where Jesus starts getting popularity. Crowds are coming, and they start becoming recognized as a teacher. And it says at the end of the chapter, it says, they tried to keep him from leaving, but he said, I must proclaim the good news of the kingdom of God to other towns also, because that is why I was sent. So I know in our human flesh, if we started having crowds and popularity and people coming and clamoring after us, it'd be like, okay, I'm staying here. Look, hey, my people. But Jesus had intention. He had the other ways that he had intention. He stopped Peter from killing his captors. The way he dressed Judas before he left, that could be hard, Say, yeah, go on, tell them so they can come kill me. Woman, it's not my time, as he's making water to wine. He was with the teachers when he was a child, told lepers and the woman at the well not to tell others. Very intentional actions. So we go back to our personal interests. Were these personal interests or reflections of what Paul or Jesus might look like? I don't see like, oh yeah, I'm planning that vacation. Some people have argued with me saying, well, he planned his vacation to Spain, so that's why he wanted to go. Well, I don't know, it doesn't really say that. But like Pastor Tim always says, these things aren't all bad. They're stress reliefs. They're fun. But are you being intentional about the time? Is it like dominating your time? Are you being intentional, time boxing it, whatever it might look like? So let's talk about firefighter. I was a volunteer firefighter for many years and became a professional firefighter for a short time. When you want to be a volunteer firefighter, you go down to the station, you fill out an application, you get a short interview, and then you're a firefighter. They give you maybe I give you a uniform, give you some equipment and stuff like that. Does that mean you can go out, jump on that truck and fight the fire? Absolutely not. You have a lot of training to do. Pictured above is one of the first things you have to learn how to do. Put all this equipment. And as a new recruit, both having been a new recruit and trained new recruits how to put this stuff on, it's a hot mess. I mean, you can laugh and joke with them like, you can't even put a pair of pants on? What's wrong with you, man? But it's complicated. It's not the same stuff. So you have to get the pants, the boots, the undergarments if you got, the mask that goes over the top, your helmet, your SCBA, hooked up to the pack in the back, the mask, get that all hooked up. Before you can even go on to the next step, you have to put all that stuff on with breathing air in less than 60 seconds. And as a new recruit, you're like, there's no way. But you get there, training and practice and intentionality. There's intention of how you put each piece of the equipment on. When I became a professional firefighter, I had to do that under 40 seconds. And then, having been a volunteer, like, there's no way. But in 60 seconds, we had to put all the equipment on, grab a ladder, extend it up to the second story, and then call, I'm done. That was a lot, but we did it. So why am I saying about firefighters? I think sometimes, like in our faith, we maybe, like you say, the application process is like now you become a Christian. There's something you do. Now you're a Christian. You have the title of being a Christian, and some of us say, okay, now I'm a Christian. That's great. Now there's lots of intentional training, and I think that's why I talk about works when we debate about, well, we don't have to do anything to save. That's absolutely correct. But what does works look like? Work is continually training, continuing learning about Christ, continuing to, like firefighters save people. We're supposed to be saving people as well. How does it apply to your marriage? We work up maybe the interview process, and the application is the dates, and the courting, and now you have the wedding. You're married. A lot of guys like, okay, I'm married, Great. That's not sufficient. Now you have to do, what is it to be a husband? What does it look like? What is it? What are you? How are you intentionally saving your wife? What are you doing in that? It's an active thing throughout your life. Even as a firefighter, if you go through the basic training and you learn kind of all the aspects of it, it's like a continual learning because there's situations that you walk into maybe you haven't learned before. Children are the same way. You have a child. Children are really easy to make. And now you're a father. So is that it? Is that all you do? Have you guys and I'm speaking to myself all this, have you read books or gone to seminars of how to raise a young man or a young woman, lady? You be intentional about that in everyday life. So you have rudder and power. Use it. Don't be adrift and concerned with the wrong things. So read through some verses of how to be intentional as a warrior. And these are reflections from Paul in his warrior mindset. So rejoice in the Lord always. I will say again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. The testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work. Love your enemies and do good. Love needs a whole slide by itself. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another with showing honor. Honor is part of a warrior. A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you, and also love one another. I mean, if love is kind of a foundation, if loving enemies, loving friends, loving everybody, that really is the first step to breaking through barriers, battling this world. And the last couple, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there are no laws. So warrior mindset, the world might think, okay, we're going to kill and destroy and beat up people. You don't have to be aggressive and hurt others to be selfish. Selfishness is the kind of thing where it is harder to be an intentional warrior against the evils of this world by reflecting love, peace, patience, and kindness in the rest of what I just mentioned. So I work for Compassion International, and we get to hear stories of the children we support. They're very inspirational. Last fall, there was a child that described his experience in poverty and compassion coming in and other things that happened in his village. So his village was very out there, very poor, and they finally brought in power lines to this section of the village. And the kid was talking through how he marveled about this guy doing the line. He's like, I want to do that someday. That's amazing. And he called him the protector of the light of my village. And one day, I want to be the protector of the light of my village. So that inspired me, that phrase of, what is your village? Your kids, your wife, your friends, your community. And you should be the protector of the light of your village. So talking about the protector, if a real-world monster, demon, was attacking your wife and children, you'd defend them tooth and nail until death, We love them. There are powers of darkness that are attacking your family now. What are you doing about it? Are you being intentional about that? What do you want your relationship with your wife to be? Your kids, where you hope them to be? Other relationships, other aspects of life, are you being intentional about that? So what are you going to do about it? What's your plan? Be the warrior, be the man, be intentional. So some ways to be intentional, I put on to all the tables. We have a card to how to pray for your wife. Pray for your wife every day. This is a starter. When you pray for your wife or your children, your friends, God talks to you as far as He builds you up. I mean, and we shouldn't be doing the battle alone. God should be in the battle with us and advocating for us. Also, praying for your children. Now, some of you are like, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, why are you talking to me? It's not too early to begin the practice. There may or may not be that wife or children in your future, but build that habit to maybe pray for them. And so that when you Especially if you start when you get older or you get into a relationship, you need to have that habit. Also, have these tokens here, these strike plates. Put these in your pockets, put it on your nightstand, put a string in your car so that if you go bump you, it knocks you in the head. Like, be intentional, dude. Whatever you need to do to remind yourself to be more intentional about aspects of life. That's what that's for. It's meant to be big and gaudy, not like a coin that disappears in your pocket, but maybe a little bit bigger, or however you want to use that. And the last thing, read the Word daily, every day. Dive in. Don't just read it and check the box like, oh, I did my reading plan. What does it actually mean and apply to your life? So what fruit do you want to bear in life? If you don't know, evaluate it. In every aspect, evaluate it and then take action. Intentional study. Are you digging in? Are you making assumptions about your faith? Christians, might have, oh yeah, I know everything. I don't need to go. I've heard things like, I don't need to go to that because I've already done that like 10 times. You might be learning something new. Same verse speaks to me differently every time I read it. I don't know if people in here, looks like most of you come to ClayHouse, so visitors, but I'll say for the recording that if you're like an agnostic or an atheist, are you making assumptions about what Christianity is? Or you just kind of or have you just intentionally dove into what that means? There's a lot of atheists that have sought out to debunk Christianity and have become Christians, seeing that it's true and validating. I'll skip that slide. So let's. We're going to do a little roundtable discussion. There are discussion questions in the middle. One side is the group discussions. The other side is reflection for yourself, just like Krister had a couple months ago. You can use the note cards to write your answers. But thank you guys for listening to me, and hope this discussion is good.